Awesome. Then I will kick it off and get us started here. Obviously, I'm Ashley, and I'm going to be presenting my leadership learnings from my capstone project and going through what I learned from a leadership standpoint on through working on this project and leading it. So before I go through the project and what it's about, I'm going to start where I kind of reflected and how I built this whole presentation and what I wanted to talk through. And what it really started on was I reflected back to our first class that we started here with LFGSM, which was effective leadership, that this entire cohort took most of us together. And during this class, we were given a paper. And the paper was very simple. It was write 3 to 5 pages about why and what makes people want to follow you. And while I was building this, I really reflected back on this paper. I actually read through what I wrote 3 years ago and really wanted to follow on why I think people should follow me. It's in today's world and social media, you hit the follow button quite easily for people online if they post something you like or whatever it may be. For everybody, it's very different. You follow your manager and your mentors each day because they'll guide you in the right direction and follow you that direction. And then you also follow your family and your friends, and you follow them when they give you advice on when you're lost or you don't know necessarily what to do. In this instance, in this picture, these ducks are following their mom, even though they don't know a whole lot, but they just know to follow her because it's the right direction and right path to go. And each of these people that you follow have different traits and qualities that make them people that you want to follow. So when I was going through my presentation and I was reflecting on the leadership principles and what I did really well at and maybe opportunity areas that I continue to grow, I really wanted to reflect back on why I think people should follow me. And this whole presentation is kind of wrapped around this question on what makes people want to follow me in the first place and what do I represent as a leader to have people follow me. And so before I go through each of the leadership principles, I'm going to touch on the project that I was leading and what this project was all about. So my project, I sent an email out earlier today with a one-page handout that has a more detailed view of what I proposed and what I was leading over the last few months. But in high level, I'm going to cover what the project was. And it was ultimately, I was leading a marketing campaign to help promote Allstate's paperless processes to our agents that would ultimately help them promote our processes to our customers, that would increase our customer satisfaction scores and increase Allstate's operating expenses as a company, as it would lower our print and postage. From a leadership standpoint, my role in this was planning and implementing the entire marketing campaign, as well as collaborating with different key stakeholders to ensure a successful campaign was executed. The expected benefits at a high level that I hope to gain through this project was increasing our paperless adoption by month over month, increasing our customer satisfaction scores and lowering complaints that we received around our paperless processes, and helping my department, as this is something we lead, meet our savings goal for 2021 for lowering our printing and postage. At a high level, some of the KPIs that I've been able to look and result as far as this project have actually been really successful. It's been kind of exciting the last week or two to see how well this campaign went over the 6-week-long course that we had. We increased engagement. We had a lot of agents' questions and feedback from the field. We had 11,000 clicks and view rates in total for all 6 articles. And our month-over-month new business adoption increased for March and April, which was the first time as it was been pretty stabilized since October. So it was really exciting results. And being able to go through in this presentation and put it together and reflect on how I did as a leader from this project was pretty insightful. And that's kind of what I'm going to go through next is how we got these successful results and what maybe some traits I did that helped led to these results in areas that I can definitely continue to grow and improve upon. So the first leadership principle I'm going to talk through is agility. So quickly, what an agile leader is they have the ability to see things from different perspectives, develop big picture ideas, and drive change. So and for this project, where is something that I did good on? And when I reflected as myself as a leader and I was leading this campaign, something that I definitely am, has a strength of mine is driving change. And I've been told this through past feedbacks and yearly reviews from different managers that when I'm given a task or a project, I really excel on driving that change and getting the results that I'm expected to give. For this project specifically, I had to plan out each article to enable the change by our agents so they would promote our paperless processes. I drove change by communicating between key stakeholders to drive the messages of the campaign and ensure we were going to get the expected benefits that we wanted to see. And I ultimately just worked with everybody to ensure that we would move forward and get the change that we were hoping, and being an agile leader in that sense. So it's definitely an area that I excel in, and an area that when I was reflecting, I was able to see myself excel in this from the project standpoint. As far as opportunity to grow from an agile perspective, I definitely have the need to have the ability to grow from being open to different perspectives. During initial meetings with stakeholders, when we were going over the key messages and what I was hoping this campaign would look like, I started to get feedback from some stakeholders on maybe some changes they would like to have seen in the messaging that I put together. And I realized I was pretty apprehensive during those meetings, and I wasn't very open to changing some of the things that I put together. I put those glasses on, as this picture kind of shows, and I just looked forward, and I had a bit of a tunnel vision. And it really allowed me to see that this is something I need to continue to develop. I need to understand that when people have different ideas, it's not a negative thing. It's not a fault to maybe the ideas that I'm bringing, but it's really only going to make the project excel and do better, and not to be necessarily as reactionary in those meetings, and take a step back and know that these stakeholders or whoever's bringing ideas, it's ultimately going to make and drive the change even stronger. So being able to reflect on that really allowed me to see this is definitely an area I need to continue to grow upon and better. Now, from an innovation standpoint, an innovative leader is someone who is creative assessment of customer market needs, are made consistently accurate organizational assumptions, generated exceptional ideas, and executed on the change. So an area where I excelled in, and especially within this project and in past projects I've noticed as well, is utilizing data to make informed decisions. I've always been a numbers person. I like Excel and I like making analysis and ultimately using those analysis to drive decisions forward. And for this project, I did that pretty heavily. I made sure to use past adoption metrics and data around our agents to make sure we were tailoring our communications to the best of our ability based on the data that I had pulled and put together. So that's definitely something I enjoy doing, and I've used it in previous projects. So being able to reflect as a leader standpoint, making data-driven decisions is just really critical and huge. Now, an opportunity that I can grow from an opportunity standpoint, and this kind of leans a little bit on my agile opportunity with openness to different perspectives. An opportunity to grow is being able to generate new ideas and just think outside of the box. Because I like to utilize data, I kind of struggle to think past the data. When I'm making a decision or I'm pulling an analysis, I'll kind of stick to the facts and not necessarily be very good at thinking outside of the box in these cases. For this project specifically, I wanted to use and tailor past education and communication we've shared with our agents for our campaign, and kind of tailor those with some of the data I pulled. And it was actually my sponsor who, when we had weekly check-ins, helped kind of check me on this and check me in a sense where obviously we have this past communications and education, but we're trying to make a new campaign. We're trying to promote our new processes in a new and innovative way. And he helped check me and realize that I shouldn't just repurpose something we've done before. Obviously, our metrics have started to stabilize. The whole point of this campaign was to do something different and be innovative and make it more exciting for our agents to want to use our paperless processes. So I really appreciated that my manager, my sponsor in this case, was helping me move forward and helping me kind of notice that this is an opportunity area for me to continue to grow upon. And it was nice to have him kind of check me on that, as I definitely needed it. And it's an area now that I'm more aware and self-aware of to make note when there's future projects that I'm going to be leading, or just a leader in general. Now, from a strategic vision standpoint, a strategic leader is someone that leads the creation and execution of a strategic vision that will ultimately improve the bottom line, productivity, and culture of the organization. So something that I excelled in from a strategic standpoint for this project, and I definitely excel in past ones, is being able to plan, create, and execute on a plan and on a strategy. And that really came to part with this project. When it comes to creating and executing on any decisions, it's something that I just enjoy doing, and it's something that I think I do very well with, and it was very apparent during this project. I outlined the key messages, I built the communications, I put together a communication plan and timeline to ensure that all the needs from a strategic objective and marketing plan objective that this campaign was going to do was going to be met, and they were met on time, and we executed on those on a timely manner. Now, with that, there's an opportunity for me to grow from a strategic standpoint. And that, it may sound easy, but it's following up. I'm very good at things prior to the execution, but post-execution, I just sometimes think, yay, we finished, and I kind of forget to do the post-mortem and follow-up process. And I, once again, am thankful for my sponsor and manager for helping me kind of realize this through this project. After the project finished, I got wrapped up in other things, and I didn't really follow up with the key stakeholders and with my managers on some of the KPIs and how the success of the project went. And obviously, I ultimately did that after I was reminded by my manager and sponsor. But that's a huge part about being a strategic leader. You can execute on something, but if you don't check on how it went, and it's really what's the point, but what was the point of this execution and this plan in the first place if you're not going to follow up? So I really appreciated my manager doing that, especially since obviously these follow-ups were very successful from this project. In the future, I really want to make sure, as I am pretty good at being organized and planning and executing and creating, that within that plan, I should be putting in follow-ups and maybe calendar notices for myself when I know a project's going to release, to remind myself to follow up and do those things. And this was a suggestion that I brought to my manager, and he just thought it was a great idea to continue to do that. As it's something I know is an opportunity area for me, especially, and it's an important part about being a strategic leader. The next trait I'm going to talk through is self-awareness. So a self-aware leader has the ability to manage personal strengths and weaknesses in order to optimize their own leadership impact. So I will note before I go in about my strengths and weaknesses, I really feel like the self-aware standpoint and being a leader was really challenging this past year, in all honesty. Being remote and not being able to gauge as easily how your words are impacting the people around you. I will say I thought I was very good at this trait. About a year ago when we were in person, I could usually tell how what I said impacted others by reading the room and being able to read everybody. And it's very much a different environment these days, and you're trying to be the leader and communicate on plans, but you're doing that all remote, and you're not basically doing that all on video. And it's kind of interesting to navigate how to be a self-aware leader. And this was definitely probably the most challenging part for my sense for this project, and just projects and other things I've led throughout the entire year. But with that, there's definitely some areas that I think I succeeded in, and then some areas that I definitely have the ability to continue to grow. One strength that I think I have from a self-aware standpoint is inspiring trust and empowerment. I received feedback from my sponsor. This was actually one of the things in my feedback, as well as just in the one-on-ones that I've had with him for this whole project as we were going through it, was my ability to inspire trust and openness during the meetings with the stakeholders. As I mentioned, I struggle to fully understand how things are doing in virtual environments, but my openness and communication and just, I guess, the vibe, I guess you could say, that I bring to these meetings, people felt very open to talk and be transparent, and I think that's really just a trait on myself as a leader that I'm glad that it's something that I can do and allow people to have that open and honest conversation during meetings. Now, an opportunity I can grow from a self-aware standpoint is micromanaging. For this project specifically, and when I really want to drive change and see something execute, I struggle to sometimes micromanage. I know when I struggle to kind of know when to delegate and when to let somebody do their own thing because I know they're going to do it. So from this project specifically, we had a key stakeholder group that was going to be putting our communications out in newsletters and helping make sure it was posted on our agency gateway site. And I followed up with them quite frequently to make sure each communication was posted. Obviously, I didn't get any negative feedback, but at the same time, I need to be aware that I can need to be more hands off, be aware that they can do what they're going to do and they're going to execute, and they have been. So I don't need to be as micromanaging, and I need to be a little bit better at being aware of that situation and putting trust, I guess you could say, in making sure people are going to execute on the plan that I put together. And the last leadership principle here is engaging others. So an engaging leader identifies and nurtures talent in order to build effective teams and productive working relationships. So something that I think I succeed in from this standpoint and with this project specifically and other projects as well is just providing a positive workspace and sharing recognition when it's due. For this project, I've made sure to recognize all the key stakeholders as they helped ensure that this project was successful. I usually will badge or send an email to the specific stakeholder and or their manager, just to remind them that thank you for what you did and thank you for your support, as I enjoy getting those when I don't necessarily ask for it. So I want to make sure I do that for other people, and that's something I will always do as a leader, and it really reflected in this project. Now, an opportunity to grow for myself is going to be receiving feedback, even if it's positive feedback or negative, whatever it may be. I always just struggle with that. I find it a bit awkward. Even reading through my sponsors' feedback, I don't know why. I just feel like it's a bit of an awkward situation for me. And this is just an area I need to be better at. Knowing that feedback, good or bad, is only going to help me grow as a leader and develop. And I need to be better at accepting it. And if it's something I'm confused about, asking those questions and just being more comfortable. And it's definitely a conversation I had with my sponsor and manager, and he kind of helps give me feedback and lets me listen and take it, and I appreciate that from him in that sense. Now, as far as the personal leadership plan and reflecting on the plan that I, put together 3 years ago at this point, it was really interesting to see from this project specifically how I met some of the goals that I put together for myself for this plan 3 years ago. And I would say there was about 3 leadership principles where I've definitely met the goals that I put together, and I want to just continue to add to those goals and grow. And there was 2 principles that I still need to develop and get and grow on the goals that I put together 3 years ago. I just haven't yet met them as I was hoping I would. From an agile leader perspective, I'm continuing to embrace change, and this was a goal that I definitely feel like I've met from when I put it together 3 years ago. And then strategic vision and engaging others were 2 leadership principles that I think I've met so far, is specifically around the goals that I put together for myself 3 years ago in the effective leadership course. Now, goals that I still hold true today and I still need to develop and grow really are from an innovation standpoint. I wrote in there working on big picture thinking, and it's definitely reflected from this project that I need to continue to work on that and grow. And then from a self-aware standpoint, I put in my goals section to listen to feedback from peers. And it's definitely an area I need to continue to grow on and become more comfortable with listening and taking feedback from others. Now, to end it, I'm going to wrap it back up by bringing back that follow button. So by being able to reflect on this project and just reflect on my whole experience with Lake Forest the last 3 years, if I could write that paper today that I wrote 3 years ago, it would definitely look a lot different in a positive standpoint. And I'm glad I was able to read it and reflect upon it for this presentation of it. But I want people to follow me for the many reasons I just talked through today. I think I exemplify a lot of the leadership traits in a positive way. and I definitely want to continue to grow and develop different leadership traits. But at the end of the day, I think I can get people to follow me, and I have been able to get people to follow me, and I just want to continue to grow and develop as a leader. And I'm appreciative of this project to allow me to continue to do that. So with that, I think that's everything. So if there's any comments or questions, I'll kind of open it up to you all.
Very good. So first, I want to congratulate you. You know, we said, please take 20 minutes, and you obviously had rehearsed and practiced, and you did it just within, first of all, the content was great, but I was pleased. And so I encourage all of you, as you begin to prepare yours, to time yourself and go through this so we don't end up spending 4.5 hours when we get to session 7 and 8, when we're going to have 5 presentations apiece. Great job, Ashley.
Yeah,
open it up for
thank you.
comments from anybody.
I wanted to ask a question, Ashley. What was the part of your project that you felt was just the biggest challenge that you overcame?
Yeah, I think putting together all the communications. I did 6 articles in 6 weeks, and I wanted to make sure I had all those planned prior to posting them. So the timeline of putting all those together and then making sure I was collaborating with the stakeholders to make sure those were posted on time and we executed and so forth. So that was probably the most challenging. But I'm a very planning and organized person, so it was fun at the same time, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Hey, Ashley, I know you talked about, one of the barriers or struggles was the micromanaging piece, but I know you had some tight deadlines. Did you, when you were assigning tasks or duties to the team, did you kind of relay or have the transparency to share those goals and deadlines with them so that maybe they can connect with why your follow-ups were so frequent? Just a thought, or if you thought about doing anything like that when you were assigning out tasks.
No, I think that's a great comment. I definitely shared the timeline in initial meetings, but something I probably could have followed up at the beginning a bit more so that I just passed the timeline over and I kind of had to put trust in them that they were going to execute on it rather than continue to follow up and micromanage. So it's definitely something I probably could have done and maybe should have done so I didn't have to follow up as much or need to, even though I didn't. They did everything that they were going to. But no, I think that was a good comment. Something I could utilize a bit more, as I just utilized pretty early on and then kind of left it.
Hey, Ashley, in terms of feedback, I can say I really liked how you set up this presentation in terms of talking about being someone to follow and kind of tying that theme of trying to be that leader people want to follow throughout the presentation, and then also wrapping up the end of the presentation going back to really why would people want to follow me. So I just want to say I do think you did a really good job kind of tying your presentation together in that manner and really presenting yourself as someone we would all want to follow.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.